Hello, everyone, and welcome to this special battlefield report. On October 12th, Austrian military expert Tom Cooper brought us another wave of explosive news. 2 Russian Su-34s were shot down. While Ukraine remained silent, Russia's unofficial sources were buzzing, eager to find out what method Ukraine used to take down the planes. The first Su-34 was downed early in the morning, crashing not far from the front line. Cooper speculated that this was likely due to Ukraine's Patriot air defense system. After all, whenever Su-34s encounter Patriot systems, they rarely escape unscathed. It seems this time was no different once the Patriot system was on the front line. The Su-34 came crashing down. By mid-morning, a second Su-34 was also shot down, and this one even more dramatically, it was taken down 50 kilometers behind the front line. Russian sources claimed that the Su-34 was preparing to release guided bombs and that it was an F-16 flying over Ukrainian positions that brought it down. This alarmed Russia, prompting speculation that more losses of this nature were likely to occur soon, reducing the effectiveness of Russian glide bombs and potentially increasing revenue casualties. Cooper commented that this was a long-anticipated development. F-16s engaging Russian aircraft directly at the front line is consistent with Western military doctrine. Fighters versus intercept aircraft, while ground-based air defense focus on countering missile threats. If it was indeed an F-16 that shot down the Su and Mark IV, would mark the first direct confrontation between these two aircraft models. However, the fact that the Su-34 was shot down 50 kilometers behind the front line is quite remarkable. The AIM-120 billion medium-range air-to-air missile used by the F-16 has a range of up to 100 kilometers, but that's in high-altitude conditions. The low-altitude conditions of the Ukrainian battlefield, the range is closer to 50 kilometers. This means the F-16 must have launched the air-to-air missile while directly over the front line, which is quite extraordinary. It also suggests that Ukraine has degraded Russian air defenses, significantly allowing F-16s to operate in frontline airspace. Coupled with the recent delivery of air-to-air missiles to Ukraine last week, everything appears to be coming together for Ukraine's air defense, right? That is the strategy. Israeli observers added their analysis, predicting that if this is true, we could see another 5 to 10 such incidents in the coming days until the Russian military adapts and flies its Su-34s further away from the front line. After all, the Su-34 is Russia's main platform for deploying glide bombs, and without these precision weapons, Russian offensives will stall. In short, if Ukraine continues to target Su-34s, the pressure on the front lines will ease significantly. Ukraine's double success in downing Su-34s on October 12th certainly calls for celebration. The battle in the Kursk region is growing increasingly intense, with Russian and Ukrainian forces locked in fierce combat at Lyubomovka. On the 11th, Russian forces unleashed all their weapons on Ukrainian positions, destroying 5 tanks and armored vehicles. Despite their stubborn resistance, by the morning of the 12th, Ukrainian forces had lost 22 more pieces of equipment. Nevertheless, the Ukrainians did not give up and managed to retake the positions they had lost in previous days, marking a turning point in the battle. Meanwhile, in the Pokrovsk region, Russian forces launched an all-out offensive on Kharkov. A few days ago, they even deployed TOS-1 thermobaric weapons in a devastating bombardment. Shockingly, the Ukrainian general staff was completely unaware of this. It turns out that the Southern Front's HQ Kherson had failed to report the situation, allowing 2 Russian motorized brigades to cross 2 rivers and establish a bridgehead while Ukrainian forces were caught off guard. The Russian forces are expected to continue advancing toward Murmansk. Why did this happen? As it turns out, the generals at HQ Kherson don't know how to command a battle. They just sit and watch the battlefield. The frontline battalion commanders are overwhelmed by combat and have no time to report the real situation to their superiors. Despite the chaos in the command systems, they're still managing to hold out, which is nothing short of a miracle. Why did this happen? It turns out that the generals at the Kherson Operational Command were watching battlefield footage but couldn't make sense of it, so they didn't report anything to the general staff. Meanwhile, battalion commanders on the front lines were too busy dealing with the ongoing fighting and had no time to report up the chain of command. Yet, despite the chaos within the command structure, Ukrainian forces managed to hold their ground, which is nothing short of a miracle. Cooper also noted that when Ukrainian brigades are allowed to operate independently, Russian forces are often routed in large numbers. However, when battalions from different brigades are grouped together, the results are worse. For example, the 46th Air Assault Brigade recently delivered an impressive performance at Selidov, where the brigade single-handedly repelled 20 major attacks by a reinforced Russian division. Cooper concluded that the reason for this success is simple: senior commanders didn't interfere. Every time General Sirski stays out of the picture, the front line seems to operate more smoothly. Cooper is almost in tears over Ukraine's command system. Commanders should be responsible for ensuring that frontline soldiers have enough ammunition. But instead, these high-ranking generals prefer to sit in their offices studying minor skirmishes or neglecting to manage ammunition supplies. As a result, soldiers on the front lines are left without ammo. In the past month, Ukraine's long-range strike strategy has undergone a significant shift, moving from targeting Russian oil refineries to more lethal targets such as massive ammunition depots, munitions factories, drone warehouses, and military airfields. Once these logistics hubs are destroyed, no amount of manpower on the front lines can compensate for the loss. Since Western countries have prohibited Ukraine from using their missiles to strike targets inside Russia, Ukraine has turned to drones instead. Their primary targets are massive ammo depots, where even a small strike can trigger chain reaction explosions. These depots are often overflowing with munitions, some even stored in the open air, making them easy targets. This tactic has been highly effective. In the past month, 60,000 tons of Russian munitions have been destroyed, significantly slowing down Russian offensives and forcing a halt to large-scale missile attacks on Ukrainian cities. On the night of October 9th, Ukraine's Navy and security forces launched a joint strike on a major Russian depot in Yeysk on the shores of the Sea of Azov. Several suicide drones crashed into the facility, destroying 400 Iranian-made Shahed drones in the resulting explosion. That same night, Ukrainian forces targeted the 67th Armory in Bryansk Oblast. Although smaller than the 23rd Armory in Tver Oblast, this depot contained advanced artillery and missiles, including short-range tactical missiles recently transported from Iran. A month earlier, Western satellites had tracked the shipment from Iran to Russia, prompting Ukraine to deploy its elite drone units, Navy and security services to ensure the mission's success, essentially a special operation. Regarding the Ukrainian Navy, this branch has been forced to fight on land since the beginning of the war. Regular sailors were reorganized into infantry brigades to support ground operations, while the remaining technical personnel were converted into drone operators. Their first major success came when they sank Russia's Black Sea Fleet flagship, the Moskva. Since then, Russian airports, warehouses, and ports in Crimea have been repeatedly bombed by the Navy, reducing Russia's presence in Crimea to a symbolic level. If it weren't for the infamous bridge Russia built still standing, there would be little left for them there. So far, Ukrainian forces have destroyed 4 out of Russia's 20 massive depots. The loss of so much ammunition combined with Russia's lagging military production means their logistics system is under severe strain. Operations in Kursk are now faltering, and Russian forces advancing near Pokrovsk are experiencing slow progress and heavy casualties. In addition to targeting ammo depots, Ukrainian forces have also set their sights on the home bases of Su-34 and Su-25 aircraft. On October 10th, Ukraine's General Staff confirmed the Khanskaya Air Base in the Republika of Edaigia in southern Russia was hit by a joint operation involving Ukraine's security service, military intelligence, and Navy. According to Ukrainian intelligence, 57 aircraft and helicopters, including Su-34s and Su-35s, were stationed at the base, a significant portion of a half regiment's worth of hardware. Even more absurdly, Russian troops had stacked wooden crates filled with bombs right next to the aircraft on the tarmac, allowing Ukrainian drones and missiles to capitalize on this oversight. After a heavy strike, the base erupted in flames, and 57 aircraft were destroyed. Khanskaya Air Base is strategically located, allowing Russian aircraft to launch from there, fly over the Sea of Azov, bomb Ukrainian positions, and return for refueling and maintenance. The exact extent of the damage is still being confirmed, but Ukraine has dealt a significant blow to Russia's air capabilities. The Su-34 used to bomb Ukrainian trenches and fortifications, and the Su-35, designed to ambush enemy aircraft, were key as Corsairs or size superiority. After this bloodbath, Russia's air dominance is likely to be severely curtailed. Meanwhile, Ukrainian forces have also scored victories on the logistical front. On Monday, they ignited a massive fire at the Feodosia oil depot in Crimea. The fire grew so large that Russian authorities were forced to release the remaining unburned oil, and they have yet to lift traffic restrictions around the port. Satellite images show severe damage to the depot, with at least 10 tanks completely destroyed and another 6 heavily damaged. With connecting pipelines also destroyed, most of the oil storage facilities are now unusable. The destruction of the depot has thrown Russian logistics into chaos. Large convoys of oil trucks are now visible all over Crimea. Russian forces have been forced to set up mobile fueling stations, which they relocate every 10 to 12 hours to avoid being targeted. The fuel shortage is hitting Russian operations hard. So in the early hours of October 12th, the Ravenki fuel depot in Luhansk was also hit by bombs, marking the 33rd Russian fuel facility to be destroyed this year. The depot contained fuel and lubricants, and the resulting fire was recorded by NASA's fire monitoring system. This depot supplied fuel directly to the battlefield with Gone tanks and armored vehicles that rely heavily on fuel will be forced to sit idle. This wasn't the first time Ukraine targeted this deep, but the April 24th attack last year caused even more severe damage. The General Staff summarized, the effort to weaken the military and economic potential of the Russian invaders continues. There will be more to come. Ukraine's strategy to disrupt Russian logistics is no simple matter. Russia's lifeline is being cut off. Ukrainian drones are cheap and plentiful, and at this rate, it won't be long before Russia's logistics system is entirely paralyzed, paving the way for a Ukrainian counteroffensive. That's all for today's special report. Thanks for watching, folks. Stay tuned for more of Russia's finest military command. Don't forget to like and subscribe for your daily dose of chaos.